So we'll continue studying from Swami Sivananda's teaching on develop cosmic love. So we saw in the beginning of the teaching that Swami Sivananda explains. He says, "O man, where do you search for God? All these forms are manifestations of the Lord. See the Lord in these forms. If you serve all beings with Narayana Bhava, beholding God in those beings, you really serve the Lord. Service of humanity is service or worship of the Lord." So we begin with Swami Sivananda explaining that the most important worship or service of the Lord is to behold the Lord in the creatures of the Lord, specifically in humanity, and to serve humanity as a worship of God. This is the meaning. So once beholding that these beings are God, to worship them. Okay? To worship God in those beings. Okay? This is the meaning. So now we continue. How can you worship God who is in all creatures unless you honor and respect everybody? Treat everybody with respect. View all with an equal eye. So equal eye means equal vision. It means beholding the Lord or the self in all. How can this be done? So this has to do with neutralizing what we call raga and dvesha, attractions and aversions. So all the qualities which individuate beings or objects, anything, have to do with our attractions and aversions. So for some reason the mind is giving too much attention to a specific name and form. This is the problem. That's called, in yoga, this is called moha or fascination. Okay, so the moment the mind becomes fascinated with something, then it becomes ultra real for it, and it loses its equal vision. It cannot see the reality underlying that thing. So either we give something too much attention, which means through fascination or infatuation we give it attention, either because we like it too much or we dislike it too much. One of the things. Both have the same result. Okay, this is the point. So if we are able to remove these attractions and aversions and to see whatever being or object it is as God, then real care comes. Okay, raga and dvesha, the attention of raga and dvesha is not caring. It's driven by something else. It may seem like caring. The real caring comes when we are able to behold the divinity in that form. Then real caring comes, but it's a caring which is not driven by raga or dvesha. That's the meaning. So this is what Swami Sivananda is saying. This is called equal vision. Equal vision means to try and behold the one reality in all names and forms. This is the idea. View all with an equal eye. Do virtuous actions. Behold the Lord in all beings. Bow to all beings. So, so Swami Sivananda, for example, he used to bow before people animals, etc. He would look at beings and he would go into ecstasy, seeing God in those beings, and he would prostrate. What Swami Shivananda recommends, he says, don't physically prostrate before people or this, because people will not understand what you want to do, and it will create problems. But he says, do it mentally. You don't need to do it physically, but within you. You can recognize the divinity of these people or beings, and mentally you can prostrate. This will be a very good spiritual practice for you, and it will not disrupt the order around you. Okay? So people will not think that something is wrong with you. So bow to all beings. Have intense and exclusive devotion to the Lord. So intense and exclusive devotion to the Lord means that our love to beings and objects, etc., is not because of those beings, is aimed at the Lord, at the God, the Self. So there is a beautiful teaching coming from the Upanishads that if what is dear to us, if we make what is dear to us in all the dear objects, the Lord or the Self, then the object of our love is imperishable. You see? So, what is the problem of this world? The problem of this world is impermanence and attachment. You see, impermanence by itself is not necessarily a problem. Everything passes away very quickly, right? So in front of your eyes, everything is crumbling down, including your own body. This in itself is not necessarily a problem. The problem is attachments, that we become emotionally attached to things which are impermanent, and therefore this world becomes an abode of pain. Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita calls this Dukhalayam. Dukhalayam means an abode of suffering is this world. Ashashvatam, impermanent. Okay, so everything that we hold on to is crumbling down in front of our eyes. So, of course, this is an abode of pain. So, but if we recognize that that which is dear to us in all objects, which is true, is the imperishable reality of the nature of bliss, which is changeless, the object of our love becomes imperishable, because we understand what we are actually, you see, what makes all objects dear. You see? So, the beauty does not belong to the flower. The flower, you see, when the flower is only a bud, you don't see any beauty. When the flower withered away, you don't see any beauty. It's only when the flower is blooming that the beauty is revealed in the flower. The beauty that is revealed in the flower is not inherent in the flower. The flower is revealing it at a certain stage of its manifestation. So the beauty belongs to reality. Reality is of the nature of beauty. So in the Upanishads, there is a beautiful meditation, which is meditation on the adorability of the Lord. What does it mean? It means what you perceive as adorable in all the objects of the world is the Lord. Like this you should meditate. That all the adorability, what makes various objects dear to you, is the one reality, which is your own self. There also it is said something very beautiful. They give an incentive. Why should you meditate like this? They say that if you perceive the one adorable reality in all beings, you will become adorable to all beings. Okay? So now someone said, oh, this is very good. So I should meditate. This is like, you can say, a spiritual worldly incentive, right? So the Upanishads are trying to make us understand, you see, this is good for you, right? Everyone will like you if you behold God in them. See? By the time you behold God in them, you don't care if they like you. You see? Because you behold God in them. But from the point of view of ignorance, it seems like a good incentive. You understand? This is the idea. So, in any case, the point is that, you see, this world is an abode of pain if we think that the objects themselves are the sources of happiness for us. It's unavoidable. It will turn into a world of suffering for us because it's all passing away so quickly. But if we recognize the one reality which is of the nature of infinite bliss in all beings and all objects, by which the objects which are dear to us, then the object of our love is imperishable. Therefore we are free. So this is the meaning of have intense and exclusive devotion for the Lord. For the Lord means not for the objects in themselves, for the Lord in the objects. Center your thoughts exclusively on Him. Desire nothing, not even moksha. So he says, don't even desire liberation, but this is at the very, very, very end. Okay, so we should not start with not desiring liberation, because this will cripple our practice. Okay, so initially, we should definitely desire liberation, to be free. See, also, Swami Brahmananda says, understand clearly what you are aspiring for. See, you need to, Swami Brahmananda gives great importance, says, understand clearly what is that God or self or moksha. He says you need to clearly understand what you are aspiring for. Okay, this has to be very, very clear in your mind. He says understanding what is God or the self is the most important thing in life. Because then you understand what the highest good means. Otherwise, you are aspiring for lesser good. Okay, and therefore remaining bound. But ultimately, Swami Brahmananda says, don't even give up the desire for liberation itself at the very end. Why? Because the nature of the self is liberation. That's why. So ultimately, in order to understand that liberation is our very nature, there is actually no bondage, then we need to even give up our desire for liberation at the very end. You will soon overcome death and reach the fearless abode of eternal bliss and supreme peace. So the yogi ultimately even conquers death, because death is the awareness of death. Death for the yogis means ignorance. Identification with the body is death. Actually, the I am, the self, is ever immortal. It is never mortal. So, Swami Vivekananda, who was a self-realized yogi, he said, I am the death of death. So, which means knowledge of the self is the death of death itself. Adi Shankaracharya wrote that death is like death to the Atman, death to the self, is a condiment, like chutney or ketchup in Western terminology, which means something to season things, to make things a little bit nice, sharp, tasty. Then you add death into the scene, right? So everyone is running around trying to solve the problem. But actually it says for the Atman, death is like a condiment, like you have some salt, pepper, Tabasco, you have death. Huh? This is how the Atman, the self, knows death. Huh? This is the idea. And Lord Jesus gave a very beautiful teaching about that, because he said in one instance, he spoke to one person, and he said that only if one is born again can they attain immortal life. And that person asked Lord Jesus, what do you mean? You mean a person should go back to their mother's womb? And then Lord Jesus gave a beautiful answer. He said, that which is born of flesh is flesh. That which is born of the spirit is spirit. Which means it is a rebirth in the spirit. One needs to know who they are. Then they become immortal. So this is what Swami Sivananda says. He says, those that are tuning their mind to the Lord, to the self, in all beings, they become immortal. Become means they realize their immortal nature. It's not that they become. They just recognize their innate immortality, their innate freedom, their innate bliss. That's the meaning. Now Swami Sivananda speaks about the fact that the self or the Lord is totally untouched and unattached, impartial. Brahman, or ultimate reality, is like the sun, Ganga, the river, and the mango tree. Sun sheds its light on the wicked and the virtuous. Right? So when a person is doing something wrong, even very wrong, is the sun retrieving its light, saying, oh, you're not getting sun today, right? Get your way straight, then I will give you some sun. No. The sun shines on the wicked and the saintly the same way. A rogue and a saint can drink the water of the Ganga. The mango tree gives its fruits both for the caretaker and the man who cuts its branches, right? So the one who takes care of the tree gets the fruits. The one that cuts the tree also gets the fruits. Develop equal vision, samadrishti, like the sun, the Ganga, and the mango tree. Which means beholding the Lord in all, or the self in all, the yogi has the same type of love or impartiality for those that come to that, for those that are friends or devotees or supporters, and those that come as enemies. So the yogi has the same equal vision towards all. This is the idea. This is the ultimate. This is what Swami Sivananda calls bear insult, bear injury, highest yoga, or what Lord Jesus taught as love your enemies. Om, 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 Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. Om Bolo Sadguru Sivananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Swami Vishnu Devananda Maharaj Ki